not, Nell? This is a logbook entry from the 19th of July, 1995. Took a call from a woman who has been married 25 years and last year found out her husband was gay, and then this year admitted to him she was lesbian. Both of them wanted to know how to break the news to their kids of 24, 20 and 19.
You're listening to The Logbooks, untold stories from Britain's LGBTQ+ history, in partnership with Faber Books.
I'm Tash Walker.
And I'm Adam Zmith.
Since we finished making the Logbooks podcast in 2022, we've been writing a book published by Faber. It's called The Logbooks, and Adam's turned 40.
You too!
I don't look it though.
The book goes deeper into Switchboard's archive and other archives, and includes more stories from the 70s, 80s, 90s and noughties. 4 decades.
Listening to queer people's essential stories is always central to our work.
So in this season of the podcast, we want to share some of the interviews we conducted as research for our book.
Now you too can listen to all the amazing, powerfully queer storytellers we've listened to in their own words, with their own voices.
Tash, I'm very excited about this interview, this episode, because I know you're bringing Diana James to the podcast again.
The one, the only.
The one, the only, our queen. Yeah, we're obsessed with Diana. We've gone back to her several times. And actually, I have a good story about Diana before we hear what's in the interview from you. When we first launched the Logbooks podcast in 2019, and we had a little launch event in a room above Central Station pub in King's Cross. And my friend Holly came to that event to support me and the project and everything, and she met Diana there because Diana was one of the interviewees that we had in the first season of the Logbooks, and Holly was really obsessed with Diana, became obsessed, only just met her that night and was just talking to Diana and listening to Diana and all the stories. And then I remember the pub trying to clear us out because it was the end of the night, and then just Holly and Diana continuing to talk and Holly continuing to listen to all of Diana's amazing stories as they were walking down the street to get the bus. And so so basically anyone who meets Diana is obsessed.
She has so much to say, and she's so interesting as well.
Yeah, she does. She's not just rabbiting on. She's actually got interesting things.
Yeah, and she's got an amazing life. She's been through a lot, lots of ups and downs. Yeah. She's a survivor. She's a warrior. She's our queen. Yeah. She's amazing. But she was a volunteer at Switchboard originally from 1988 to 1994, which is why we got in contact with her, why I originally interviewed her all those years ago. She worked alongside the likes of Dudley Cave,
whose name comes up a lot.
His name comes up a lot in the actual logbooks, and who is no longer here. And the Switchboard phone room is actually dedicated to Dudley. And then through the process of the interviews that we did with her and going back into those memories, Diana actually rejoined as a volunteer, which was so amazing. So she's a volunteer today. And I think that's been a real experience for her to look at what has changed, what hasn't changed. But I have to say, above everything else, Diana is hands down one of the most amazing people who is so open and so forward thinking in such a natural way.
I can't wait to listen to Diana's interview. Where did you interview her?
Well, full circle. The first time I interviewed Diana was at Switchboard, and she went back to see the building again that she hadn't seen in decades. And so for this interview, we went back there and sat in the training room.
Great.
I remember when you came back into the building, you were like, whoa, this is so weird being here. How does it feel like coming back as a volunteer again, though?
Oddly, I'd really not been away.
Yeah.
Something that was really strange for me was seeing Dudley's name on a plaque going into the phone room, because I did shifts with Dudley.
Okay, wow.
We often disagreed about certain things, but we both respected each other, and we both loved each other in a way. We always had a hug at the end of a shift we shared. And he was a great guy, and I miss him.
Yeah. Oh,
it was really good.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, his partner was my wife's teacher.
No way.
At school.
That's so weird, isn't it?
I know. You think the world is a huge place.
Yeah.
She said, "Oh, I was taught by his partner."
God, that's so funny.
It's weird. But
that is.
So I tap the sign.
Yeah.
And I start a shift. And I say, "Hiya, Dudley, start another shift."
Oh, I like that a lot. What are your thoughts on the calls now in comparison to the last time that you were a volunteer?
Some are remarkably similar. There's a lot very much the same. What I have seen since then is a big upshift in calls related to gender, and that's non-binary as well as people, when you say gender, people automatically go to transgender.
Yeah.
Which I am, so that's like an automatic thing for me to think about. But a lot of non-binary people say, "Oh, this big blasted non-binary, it's all just been taught, they've never been there." No, they've always been there, just never had the language or the understanding of what non-binary was. So a lot of younger people back then didn't know. They knew they were queer.
Yeah. Yeah.
They didn't actually know about being non-binary or there being a choice. Everything was binary. You were male or you were female. And for a lot of trans people back then, it was a one-way stop. You know, you started as one, you finished as the other. You didn't get the opportunity to say, "No, I'm happy now with my body about who I am. I want to stop." You had to go from all the way through. But that's changed, fortunately.
Yeah.
And non-binary is being recognised more as a choice or who people are. You know, it's for someone, it's saying that's not what someone says, "Oh, you're just being non-binary because it's fashionable."
Yeah.
No, it's about who they are inside.
100%.
Is who they want to express that.
Yeah.
And they don't feel that they need to fit within a gender binary box.
Yeah.
That they create their own place of who they are.
Totally.
And that can be anywhere. And somebody else not recognising that person as non-binary doesn't make them not non-binary. A non-binary person can be what other people would see as ultra-femme, can still be non-binary. Someone seen as ultra-butch can still be non-binary. You don't have to be what other people used to call androgynous,
right?
Be non-binary.
Yeah, it's not about what you look like, it's about who you are. Yeah, exactly. So you mentioned at the beginning that you came back to Switchboard because after being interviewed by Mary for the Logbooks podcast, which, I mean, I spoke to you for many a season, which was fantastic. And I learned so much from you, Diana. How was that? Like, how was it being interviewed again, being asked those questions, delving back into, you know, some years ago, remembering that time? How did you find that?
I found it interesting to think about, because it made me start thinking about things I'd done back then that were very different from the life that I then, when I left Switchboard, I went into a different kind of life and did different things. And kind of that Switchboard at that time was seen to me that was part of my life. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
But now I'm doing other things. And it was interesting to think back and think, oh yeah, I did that. And I went on those marches. I did those protests.
Yes, so the dyke marches.
Yeah. I got chased by police there and there and there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was really interesting that there was other people that were at Switchboard at the same time reached out to me and said, "Hi, you know, it was great to hear on the logbooks." And it was like I picked up again with Lisa.
Yeah, nice.
Which was fantastic, who reminded me of things I'd forgotten.
Yeah.
You know, like me running away from the police on a National Front anti-Nazi League march and the coppers not being able to catch me because I could run faster than them. And she was saying it was like watching a borzoi being chased by a Dachshund. And she nearly got arrested because she was laughing so much.
Oh, really? Oh, God. Yeah. What was it? Because I guess as well you had to like trust, well, me and Adam with like what you were saying to us. Like, things that maybe you hadn't thought of before, but we didn't. Like when I met you, I didn't know you. Like now, we're friends and I feel like we know each other a hell of a lot more than when I first met you. But like that's quite big, especially a community at a period of time when you were younger, that trusting people wasn't easy.
It wasn't easy, especially as sort of like a year and a bit earlier, I'd come out as a dyke. So I did lesbian strength marches and pride marches and stuff. And that was hard enough because you get beaten up on the street, like I was, actually. Having a bloke kick you in the head and call you a fucking dyke. Yeah, that comes back to the reclaiming words again.
Yeah.
So I had that. And then actually I came out at my Switchboard interview. As trans.
Yeah, I remember this.
And the interviewee, when I said, oh, and by the way, and I mentioned, oh, by the way, I'm trans. I'm not quite sure the terminology back then that I used, probably transgender or I'm transsexual, which is a term that we don't use anymore.
Yeah.
But back then was a commonly used phrase. And I remember my interviewer looking at me and sort of like sitting back and going, oh, right, yeah. And then she said, okay, and then carried on with the interview. But I think when she went back and discussed it, because we used, I don't know her pronouns or their pronouns now, but back then it was just she and he.
Yeah.
We didn't have those then. But so I don't know that they went back and discussed it with other people. Which was interesting because then I got a phone call 2 weeks later. Would you like to come and have a chat? Just some things that we'd like to go over. And I thought, oh, that's strange. It's not an outright, well, I'm sorry, no. This is lesbian and gay Switchboard.
Yeah, as it was then, right?
Yeah. But yeah, so then I met Lisa in First Out Cafe, which is no longer existing, sadly.
Yeah,
it's heartbreaking.
I know, it's so sad.
But met there and discussed it. And Lisa said, well, we really want you. As far as we're concerned, you're a lesbian. You live with another woman, you have sex with other women, you identify as a lesbian. So therefore, for us, you're a lesbian. So, but there might be some problems. But if there are, come and see me or talk to me, get in touch with me, and I'll be around. So if anything happens, you know that I'm there. So, and I said, yeah, I want to be a volunteer. That's what I applied for. So then I joined. And promptly 4 people left.
Oh, yeah. Well, good riddance, right?
Yeah, or it's difficult to say good. It's easy now to say, well, they're bloody TERFs. We don't want them. But back then it was also, there was a lot of, I had perhaps more understanding of their position than a lot of other people did.
So this was, when did you join Switchboard?
88.
88, okay, yeah.
So remember at that time, being a lesbian, especially being an out lesbian in an organisation or whatever, was incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
You were seen as, it was awful, especially if you were obviously a lesbian. If you were butch or you proclaimed yourself in whatever way as not being available to men. Therefore, that was a hard space. And so a lot of lesbians then had to create a space for themselves.
Yeah.
And it was hard. It was difficult. There weren't as many clubs. There weren't as much money. There was no facilities for lesbians. That had to be created through hard work and sacrifice. And so it was very difficult then for a community that had fought for that to then start opening up and what they saw as sharing that with another type of woman. It was the same as like seeing bisexual women back then.
Yeah.
Bisexual was a big no-no at Switchboard.
Yeah, I remember the stories on that one.
Yeah, and it was a big no-no everywhere else within lesbian and even some feminist groups. A lot of feminist groups wouldn't have lesbians because, we'll be tarred with their brush.
Yeah, sure.
It was those awful kind of words that were used for lesbians, and lesbians couldn't get in refuges.
Adam and Tash here.
We wanted to tell you about our book.
It's called The Logbooks, Voices of Queer Britain and the Helpline That Listened.
And it's filled with more stories from Switchboard, our podcast contributors, other archives, and even the pair of us.
The Logbooks is published by Faber Books, and you can order it now at linktree.com/thelogbooks. I guess what I'm interested in is having been on the Logbooks and then listening back, assuming that you listened to the podcast.
I did listen to the podcast.
Listening back to it, how was that like, listening back to that yourself, but also other people's stories and going back into like those periods of time, which were really complicated, right? And complex, and lots of things happened.
Yeah, politics was changing.
Yeah.
Community.
How was it listening back to it and having that time to
fantastic. It was great listening to so many different voices. I mean, to say some that had come before me that I'd never met, never had the chance to speak to, which was really brilliant to listen to what they had to say. Some people I might not have been at the same time, but just not shared a shift with.
Yeah.
And then people that came after. It was really interesting to see the changes, how Switchboard evolved, how the community, Switchboard and the community evolved at the same time in many respects. Because when Switchboard went through the whole bisexual issue, that was being an issue that was going through within that community outside of Switchboard. So it was like Switchboard was going through the same growing pains, the same struggles as the community as a whole was going through. Which is not surprising because Switchboard is the community.
Yeah.
We are the community.
You see that reflected throughout Switchboard's history from the people I've spoken to and in the logbooks, like whatever's happening in wider society, be it, biphobia in this example, you see it reflected in the logbooks and internally within the organisation. I just thought about this now, but I suppose, you and I are both part of Switchboard as a family. So when, talking about listening back to the logbooks and hearing people that were there before you and after, did it feel like learning more of your history in a way?
It did, because I can't talk about the work that I went in after Switchboard.
That's fine.
But it was very much divorced from the community itself. Whereas now I'm back into the community after being away for some time. And I love that feeling of being in community again. That really is huge for me. And listening to other people's stories, other people's lives, so incredible amount of respect for those people and what they did, the incredible struggles that they had and things that they fought through and achievements that they made, both in Switchboard and without.
Did it make you feel proud to have been part of Switchboard?
I was always proud to be part of Switchboard. One of the reasons I wanted to join was because of the work that Switchboard did for the community, and because so many of us before joining Switchboard had phoned Switchboard. And I had phoned Switchboard after I'd left on occasion. So I knew that was there and how important it was for our whole community. It's been like a thread going all the way through our community. It's been Switchboard. It's always been there.
Totally. How does it feel like being, I suppose, like the first trans volunteer interview to now coming back and there being a trans CEO?
Yeah, I know. It's brilliant. And from being the first and only, because I was the only one for a long time, because it wasn't like advertised on the internet, because there wasn't an internet. There was like no stories in the pink press or anything else like that. Switchboard's first trans volunteer or anything. There wasn't any of that. So I was the first one and the only one for a considerable amount of time. So it's just so interesting to come back and find so many non-binary, so many trans, so many people that do not feel that they fit within any of those labels, but they feel that they are part of the queer community.
Yeah.
They self-identify as queer. So for me, they're queer. So that is fantastic, seeing that. And it's just sitting down and talking to people that are 20, 30 years younger than me, and listening to what they've got to say and having that education from them. So I learned so much from every conversation I have with one of the younger volunteers. it's really fantastic. You never stop learning in this place.
You sort of preempted what I was going to ask you next, which is...
Sorry.
No, it's fine, which is about like what are your experiences of conversations within our communities with like younger and older people now, to start with? Like, how are you finding that? So, what you just said then, you're listening and you're learning and...
Yeah, it's interesting, the change in language and terminology. What is acceptable changes and evolves. For instance, back when I started at Switchboard, queer was still a very difficult term. I talked about Dudley earlier on.
Yeah.
Dudley couldn't stand that word and felt very hurt if they heard anyone at Switchboard using that term around them because of their history. And so I never did. I respected that, because at the time there we would start beginning to use queer more, as in part of a queer community. It was an early sort of time to be using that term, but we did, to an extent, use that we were queer and stuff. But I never used it around Dudley because I respected his boundaries around who he was and his history and how he would feel. I'm not going to hurt his feelings. But also I used the term dyke. And there is still within our community many women, mostly of my-ish age or a little earlier than me, a generation before, but even some now. See, well, it's a very harsh word. It's very, it's very in your face. Yeah, it is. But then being a dyke is very in your face. It's saying, yes, I'm not one of those nice little lesbians who lives in the country and has a white picket fence and a partner and roses over the thingy. That's not who I am. I wear leather, I wear jeans, I wear whatever. I pretty much wear exactly what I did in the 90s, really. Yeah. I haven't evolved. But no, that term's important to me. Ever since that guy was kicking me and calling me a fucking dyke, I said, that's who I am. I'm a dyke.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, like, listening to what you're saying about like Dudley and then about the word dyke for you, like before I realised anything about my sexuality, so I went to a school, and it was like a grammar school, an all-girls grammar school, and they called us dykes. So like from the age of 12, like that word I learned as a slur, whereas queer was never used, right? And so I grew up with that word first as a negative slur, and then later realised I worked out my sexuality. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because it's kind of like what I guess Dudley must have experienced, and and I'm sure you have with other, with a variety of different like words that we've all had thrown at us. But it is this interesting point, I think, with like what one's experience is, and then the choice to reclaim and take ownership over it. And I think it's fantastic to see that happening with so many different words and things like that. Is there anything that people are reclaiming now that you feel uncomfortable with? Or, I mean, you're so great at, like, you're so forward thinking,
No,
can't imagine.
There isn't, because I think if someone uses a term and they feel that that's who they are or part of what they are, it's not for me to say, oh, I'm sorry, I don't agree with that. I think that's wrong. Yeah. It's not for me to say that. It's for me to say, right, okay, that's fantastic. And I respect that you have chosen that term and you feel that term is who you are. And I am happy to use that term with you. I just don't feel comfortable about it being with me. Yeah. So I'm respecting your boundaries about who you are. Yeah. And I hope that you can respect mine around who I am. So let's do it from that mutual form of respect. Although, to be honest, I can't think of one single thing that someone's used around themselves that I would feel awkward or uncomfortable with.
The conversation's certainly more open now, isn't it, than it was historically. And I suppose like when you're in conversation with younger queer people now, does it feel different to what it felt like for you when you were younger? Being in conversation with your queer elders back in the 80s?
Yes, it is different. The biggest difference is in the fact that there is more comfort around using the terminology, the thoughts, the self-descriptions that feel good to you as not anyone questioning that. I mean, so I know they can be sometimes questioned by some people within our community, but you do sometimes wonder whether they actually feel that or whether they just like the idea of stirring up trouble within the community and making themselves seem important. That's an argument that many people can have. But I just feel that the differences as well within non-binary is so huge. How many of us back then, if we'd have had the same language, would have said, yeah, that's who I am. No, I am not that one thing. I am who I am, and I choose that to be who I think and feel I am.
Yeah.
Whereas back then we didn't have that.
Yeah.
So I think this idea of, lots of people, non-binary is new and it's fashionable and everything. No, it's just that we didn't have the language back then.
Yeah, totally.
I know of so many people that would have felt themselves to be non-binary back then because they had it, but they didn't have the words. Also, there wasn't the acceptance, I think, of there being such a spread of difference.
Well, totally. I mean, society wasn't accepting the binary gay or lesbian, or like, or even just women. Full stop.
No internet.
Yeah.
No way of communicating.
Yeah, finding those connections.
I know it's a love-hate relationship with the internet because it can do so much, and yet it can also be so harmful.
What do you think about the sort of like narrative that some older queer people are saying, we fought for your rights and now it's your time to fight for ours, especially when it comes to like older queer people and their
experiences? It's time for everybody to fight for everybody's rights.
Yeah.
It's not time for them, younger generation, to fight for my rights or for me to fight for their rights. It's for us as a community to fight for our rights because they're going to be older. So therefore we need to fight for the rights for when they reach our age or whatever age, that they're going to have that equality, that feeling, that opportunity. But also for them to say, fight for our rights. It would be great if they stood up and said, we think that there need to be more LGBT homes for people of retirement age, that there should be that freedom, there should be that expression. Yeah, that's fantastic. But it's also for those people that are more mature, shall we say, to fight for the rights of people that are younger as well.
Diana is just so forward-thinking. I think that's why we love her so much. And just ending there in that interview with her saying how younger people need to fight for the specific rights that older LGBTQ plus people need. And then the same likewise as well. Like the older ones need to know what the younger ones are fighting for and to support them to do that. Like you just don't hear that from very many people.
Yeah, I know. And thinking about so many of these interviews being done in 2023 and it's 2026 now.
Yeah.
And just how relevant what she's saying there is to today, to what's happening with trans rights. And it makes me think of the writer, philosopher, all-round extraordinaire human, Paul B. Preciado, who said, I choose to leave my generation and join the next. And I think Diana encompasses that completely.
Yeah, and there are people ordering like magic pills from the internet that help you live forever. But that's not what Paul B. Preciado is talking about, even though he would take magic pills.
Going then with
but
that.
Like, I just like that idea that like, it's not about staying forever young in a physiological way. It's just like what he's saying is like, live young, like understand what is going on for the next generation, and you can like be a part of that movement too.
Right. I think it's about evolution. I think it's about being open to the changes that are coming that you won't be at the forefront of, but you'll be learning from the next generations. Yeah. And evolution is such a key. We talk about this a lot all the time, Adam, but I really believe that, in 5 years from now, I'll listen back to this podcast recording and roll my eyes at some of the things that I've said. But I want to change, and I want to be rolling my eyes in the future because we should be moving forward. We should always be questioning ourselves and trying to be better versions of ourselves and trying to leave our generation and join the next. That's true. No magic pills for sale here.
Even if you're like cringing at the things that you said.
Yeah.
I feel very seen by that. And it's exactly what we're trying to do in these sharing days that we're doing this year by bringing people of different generations together to like listen to what they're going through. So what the queer younger people are going through, the older ones need to know, and then what the older ones are going through, the younger ones need to know. And that's really important. That's what we're hoping to do with releasing the book, is to like stimulate those kinds of conversations. And we're hosting those events, those sharing days. You can find them if you go on our socials and on our website, auntnell.com. Super important. The Logbooks is an Aunt Nell production in partnership with Faber Books.
It is hosted and produced by Tash Walker and Adam Zmith.
The voice of the Logbooks is Serena James.
The assistant producer is Marnie Woodmeade.
Engineered by David Pye.
Music by Tom Foskett Barnes.
Original artwork by Natalie Doto.
Thanks to Steph Dickers and team at the Bishopsgate Institute.
Our publisher, Faber Books.
The Dreamboats at Acast.
The staff and volunteers at Switchboard, and all the contributors who shared their stories.
Switchboard continues to take phone calls from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day. If you're affected by any of the issues in this podcast, or need to discuss anything to do with your gender identity or sexuality, you can call Switchboard on 0800 0119 100. Email hello@switchboard.lgbt or instant message via switchboard.lgbt, where you can also donate money or time to help.
We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Styles Mackenzie helping you make those rooms sing. Today's style tip: when it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild, like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Arr, fierce. This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.